Hello there, Pursuing Freedom listeners. Thanks for tuning in today. This is a big day for Pursuing Freedom as we go international with our first guest from out of the United States. We have Tiffany Sly from Toronto, Ontario. And I sort of met Tiffany because I was stalking her on Instagram because her content is amazing. It's the art of real estate, I think. Is that right, Tiffany?
Art of modern real estate. Yeah.
Art of modern real estate. So anyhow,
Yeah.
Tiffany was just putting out so many amazing, powerful messages for real estate agents. She also is an active agent and has been since 2007. She has been a top producing agent in her marketplace and in her company for a very long time. She's a wealth of knowledge, and she's also a real estate coach. And I just really admire her and the philosophies that she's sharing. And so I reached out and asked her to be on the show, and I'm super grateful that she's taking the time to be with us today. And I think you guys will be as well. So with no further ado, Tiffany, just give us a little backstory on you about, how, when, and why you got into real estate, and kind of a little bit about your journey to success, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Erin. This is so exciting being the first Canadian. So exciting. I'm happy to represent. So for me, it's been an interesting journey. I was in advertising marketing for quite a while, and my family was in real estate my entire life. My grandmother's been in it 49 years. And then my aunt is also in it in Calgary, Alberta. So I've grown up in the business, and in 2007, I kind of decided to make the shift into real estate. And at that point, there were 35,000 licensed agents in our market here. And now there are 51,000, which is crazy. And, when I first started, it was just, trying to make my mark in the business. I think there were 5 of my friends that also went into real estate the same year. So that was a really tricky time for me. I think over the last 12 years, it's been a really fun journey. And I've worked for one of the best brokerages in our city with all of the best agents in our city. And I've learned from my grandmother for the last 12 years and all the other seasoned agents as well. So I've been super, super lucky in the market and with the experience I've received. And we've built a really great business. So it's more of a family business that I'm involved in. So yeah, so I guess I started in coaching just recently because throughout my journey, I think, just coming from the marketing advertising side of the industry and because of my background, I really saw real estate from a different perspective, I think. From, obviously it's modern world we're in, we're going more digital. It's more of the branding stuff that we're trying to accomplish as agents. And I started to see, I learned from the traditional side of the business and those traditional avenues. I did all the courses. I was told what I should do, door knocking, phone calls, prospecting, all those keywords that we hate to hear. And I realized, we all dread those things. And I just realized, everyone's wearing suits and we have this kind of persona that agents should be a certain way. And I realized I actually saw a bit of a need, that I saw things shifting in our business where more people were going into the business right out of school, which is unheard of. Like in my grandmother's day and age, they went into real estate as like a 4th career,
Right.
like a housewife. Like it wasn't right out of school. So it was a huge shift happening in our business that I started to see how many of us were joining the business and how we had to really focus, or should be focusing, on our own personal branding and how we were different from everyone else and standing out. And really that shift, and obviously like online was a huge part of that, the digital marketing and all of that. So I just saw, just an opportunity there. I think people needed to focus on that more than on the actual monetary goals and how you should be as an agent. So that was just a really, really cool discovery for me. So now I've transitioned into coaching real estate agents to do that exact thing.
Awesome. So backing up a bit, because a lot of times our listeners are getting started in the business or looking to grow or looking to ramp up their business. And you mentioned that when you first got into the business, you joined a family team, and then, you needed to make your own mark. So how did you go about doing that? What did you do in the early years to kind of set yourself apart or individualize, I guess, yourself as a person, as opposed to, you know, being somebody who's a part of the family team, essentially?
Yeah, no, that was my biggest challenge in my career was, you know, I was younger. I was 26. I looked younger. I sounded younger. It was really a challenge for me to kind of make my own mark in under the umbrella of the family team and within a very more high-end brokerage. And I was seeing that, you know, branding could improve. I really spent a lot of time on our own branding, you know, putting out, building credibility for myself as well as for the team. So doing a lot more online marketing, blogging, that kind of stuff. You know, blogging was just like becoming quite popular then, and agents were starting to do it, creating content, getting out there on social media a lot more. And then obviously now it's like pretty noisy, but back then it was really starting to gain traction for agents to be on social media. So that was, you know, what I really focused on for quite a while, was building my credibility and proving to people that I, you know, was a great agent and my strengths and who I was.
Now, are you somebody who jumped right into social media with video of yourself and things like that with kind of a fearlessness, or is that something that you just started utilizing more in recent years? I mean, what kind of content were you putting out?
You know what? I truly hate video blogging, and I'm terrified of that. So I really am not that type of person. I think for me, it was just trying to figure out, like I think the challenge was how to stand out, how to be yourself, and obviously how to get business was like third, right? So I was just really just trying to get out credibility and build equity in my market, you know, for lack of a better way to say it. Just putting out information, educating people. So I would post about, you know, like the multiple offer process. Like we have bidding wars now, or have had them for quite a while. How do you deal with that? You know, just information that buyers and other agents even could really find useful and see me as an expert. So that's what I spent most of my time doing, was just putting that information out there. So it was more just content writing, like blogging and posting on social media platforms, just the content, the copy that I would create. Yeah, and then Instagram wasn't really popular then. So that just started to come out, you know, the last maybe 10 years, 5 years for sure. And, you know, I guess it is still about content, but I think obviously video is becoming way more popular. You know, I'm starting to do a bit more of the video stuff, even though I hate it so much. But just getting really great branding photos is what I started to do, and having content written and having information that I would put out there regularly, consistently. So that's what I started to do. Yep.
So the content that you write is really amazing, by the way. It's really thoughtful and it's compelling and it's, I don't know, it's thought-provoking. So I think it's impressive, and it doesn't surprise me that if you were putting content out in the early years of social media that it would be effective for you. When you first started, were you mostly supporting your grandmom and your aunt's production, or did you immediately launch into trying to create your own pipeline?
You know, at the beginning, I'd say for the first 5 years for sure, I was my grandmother's associate / assistant, assistant turning associate. So, you know, people didn't know who I was. No one knew what I could do. So I had very little confidence in the business. You know, when you're thrown into it, you have no idea what you're doing. So I just kind of just took in everything like a sponge, and I just used it as a challenge and just tried to get better and better at everything I was doing. So that was a big process at the beginning, for sure.
Now, was 2008 and 2009 as dramatic there as it was here in the industry?
You know what? We did see a really big drop. Yes. Yeah, there have been quite a few challenges, I think, since, you know, 2007 in Canada. It was pretty similar to what you've had. Yeah. And obviously not as big of the dip in the mortgage industry, but slightly.
When I was so new in the business during that time also, because I went out on my own in 2007. So when people were asking me during that time, you know, how's it going for you being in the industry at this time, I just remember responding that I don't know any better. I didn't have a massively successful business that came crashing down. I was building while others might be crashing. And so I felt my perspective was pretty fortunate at that time, because it came from making no money. So it was like, there was only one way to go but up. And
You're like, what do you mean? It's great.
I was just trying to figure out how to build a database at that point. So
Yeah.
it wasn't super catastrophic for me, but were you like contributing or participating in, business development at the time with your grandmom, or were you kind of just like observing her try to navigate that transitional period?
Oh, I was doing it all. I was trying to build like CRM strategies, marketing, branding, content, just like constantly. Like we started doing newsletters, we did annual mail outs. I just was trying to think of how else we can get out there and distinguish ourselves, within the many agents that are out there. So I found those times to be, sure, challenging, but I actually secretly loved them because it was a challenge that we should overcome. And I think it gives us like that spark, that fire.
So another question I have for you, because as you're launching into starting your own coaching business, I assume that you have experience being coached, right? Like, have you had business coaches, and if so, was it from day one, or when did you start seeking out your own coaches?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I've had 3 or 4 coaches throughout my career. And oddly enough, 2 of those coaches were life coaches. And, 2 of them were business coaches. One, like real estate business coach specific. And I'll tell you that I had the most groundbreaking experiences with the life coach aspect of that coaching. And that's also kind of what I've, morphed in the life coaching and the business side to the real estate coaching. I think they should be married and kind of blend, because, that was really like the most paramount time for me, was when I had that life coaching experience, when I learned, what my values were, what my strengths were, what happiness meant to me, those types of things that I think we don't actually do when we're doing any real estate coaching or any business coaching, or as a realtor, we don't think about those things. We just think about what's our income goal, what are the monetary goals. We forget to start from the beginning and actually do the beginning stuff in the inner work. So that was huge for me.
Let me ask you, when you sought out that type of coaching, were you in a place where you were burning out, or were you in a place where you were just struggling to figure out who you were and how to grow your business? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I think we all go through this. We are taught what we should do, not what we want to do. We just go through the hamster wheel. We get involved in the business. We start becoming reactive.
Yep.
We start turning out the business, getting the clients, working 24 hours a day because we have that, income goal that we're planning for. We don't think about how I'm going to be burnt out, or if this doesn't make me happy, I literally can't see my kids. I don't take care of my body. I'm actually like not exercising, things like that. And I went through the same thing. Like there was a period of time where, I was doing all the courses, going out and prospecting all the time, spending all this, time and money, and being taught what I should do and not thinking about what I really wanted to do or having it reflect who I was as a person. And I really, when I started to change that and flip it upside down, and I started to really uncover what my strengths and values were and what kind of business I wanted to build, what kind of agent I wanted to be, and who I was, and have that complement who I was, my business nearly doubled. So it was just such a huge shift. Like people actually saw the confidence come through because I was myself, and I didn't have commission breath, that we call it.
Yeah.
Like it's just trying to get the deal. Oh my God, I'm focused on the deal, trying to make the deal happen and the money come in, rather than actually being, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I actually care about what happens to you, client, and I'm thinking about your best interest always. And it's more genuine. It's not focused on the money and making the deal happen. So that's when I when I had that strength and that confidence and that authenticity would come through. That's when I saw that shift.
So it's fascinating that you're bringing this up, because every year for the last couple of years, I've led these business planning workshops in real estate offices and to groups, and there's always been that piece of the business plan, which is how many units, how much volume, what kind of income, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I've realized throughout the journey of this podcast, meeting people like you, and really finding the connection to this idea that your success should be a byproduct of you serving, living your life with passion and purpose, finding out what excites you and bringing enthusiasm to every relationship you have, and letting deals and dollars be a byproduct of just this idea of like living your life with purpose. And I did this business planning workshop yesterday, and I realized, with hindsight, it was like they left with a business plan, but it had so little focus on numbers and dollars and production, because we focused a lot on this idea of how your success, my success, and every other guest on the show and everyone who's listening is going to be completely dependent on you, uniquely you.
Yeah.
Not,
oh my God.
not a formula that you have to plug into. Yeah. And if you figure that out, if you figure out what sets your soul on fire, and do more of that, you'll see that happen. You will double your business, and you will be having more fun than you've ever had in your life and in this business.
Totally. Like, you'll actually have more happiness, and you'll have the life you want. Like, the point of going into real estate is that we want the freedom and flexibility to have unlimited earnings, right? We build the business for ourselves and by ourselves. And that's a huge, powerful thing. It's really exciting, but it's also like something people just get very scared of, and they get wrapped up in, and it eats them alive. So right? Like, I think we have to think about those monetary goals. We have to know what's coming in, how we're going to pay our bills. Like, I think it's a good thing. It's a really healthy thing for us to have income goals. And then we kind of break it down. How many deals does that mean we have to do a year? Okay, does that really complement what my business model should be, which should be the beginning stuff, the beginning stages of how much do I want to work? What does my happiness in my life look like? What does my schedule that I want to have look like? And then let's see how we can actually make those goals happen within that framework, right? Like, if I want to work 6 months of the year, then 6 months of the year is going to be ram-packed with like intense, very much like 24/7 business if I want to make $800,000 a year or whatever, or I'm going to focus on high end only, that kind of thing. So I think it's the mistake the agents make is they kind of pass over that beginning stuff. Whereas that should be the beginning, like the meat and potatoes, the foundation of your business plan should be the starting, looking inner, thinking about what you need, what you want, what you see your business and what you want your business to look like. And then, okay, what do you want to achieve is kind of that second piece. How are you going to get there? Who do you want to talk to? How do you want to get to them? And what do you want to say to them? But you need to figure out who you are before you start saying things to them, because you're not going to know what to say, right?
Yeah, and what's important to you and what's important to the person next to you are going to be totally different. And it changes year to year. Another interesting thing is like, the idea of what was important to me a year ago is going to be totally different today. And maybe what was important to me a year ago was, maybe it's getting out of debt. So it is a financial monetary goal. Yeah. And then you go through the year, you hit all your financial goals, and you look back and realize you're completely burning out. So maybe the goal this year is balance or time with your family. And like you said, you're creating that framework first and then figuring out how to put a business plan inside those boundaries.
Yeah, I think what people don't think actually is that you can have all those things all wrapped up into one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it can be, you still are successful, have a sustainable business, which is what we want, is more long-term rather than just a 10-year plan, right? It's sustainable success over a long period of time, but also still having your balance and still maintaining you. That is what we can have. Like, people don't realize you can have that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. I feel that you can have it all. And the other thing is that I'm sure, I don't know if you've been through this, but I feel like over the course of the last 12 to 13 years that I've been in the business, I was like hungry and starving and stressed. And then I got to be busy, and then I was stressed and overwhelmed. And so then I wanted to shut it all down. And so there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of stress and worry. And then finally, just in the last few years, it's like I'm having fun again in the business because I figured out what I enjoy, which is helping other people grow their business, and let the deals be a byproduct of that, right? And I see so many top producers that are surviving success and trading a lot for that success because they're so grateful to have it, which I appreciate. But like, you can have it all. You just have to decide first what you want.
And some of those successful agents don't really find that their kind of personal time and balance is valuable to them. Like, that's actually not a value that they value. They actually prefer to have the income and that churning business, right? It's like, whatever your goals are, you can achieve them. It just depends on what you really want and how you see your life being.
Yeah. And it's perfectly acceptable too if that is the case. If someone is really passionate about that and driven by the numbers and the volume and all that, then they are being fulfilled, and that's fantastic. So that's them knowing what fulfills them, and also maybe they're going to be retired in 3 years, and that's fantastic. So it's like all out until then. But if that doesn't excite you, then know that it doesn't have to be the only formula. You can have work-life balance. Well, work-life balance is kind of a myth, but like, you can love your career and love your life. And that should be.
I think it's the career should be authentic to you.
Yep.
And you are your own brand. And that's the biggest part of the coaching that I found was missing, was the personal stuff. Really who you are and what you represent should be like center to everything.
How do you help people uncover that or discover it and find it? Because sometimes we get lost. And what is the strategy for helping people find that spark again?
Honestly, it's what worked for me is literally putting it on paper. And I have a questionnaire people fill out before we work together. And it's pretty nitty gritty, deep dive into like their own personal goals and who they are. And I think a lot of people, I've realized, have not done that for themselves. So it's like, what does success mean to you? What do you want to add to your life? What do you want to take out of your life? What kind of person, or how do you see yourself in relation to other agents? What makes you a great agent compared to other agents? Those types of things. It's talking about your strengths and who you are and what your values are. And once you put that on paper, we fill out, what are the top 40 values? Let's narrow it down now to the top 10. And then now the top 5. And it's actually pretty shocking what you come down to the top 5. You realize what your true priorities are. And until you actually do those exercises, you actually sometimes don't know them.
I love that.
It's like, sometimes it's like, someone would talk to me, like even me, like I even thought, oh, it's being successful, having the things in my life, or being able to travel and do the things that I want, which is obviously monetary, right? But then when I did the value exercise, it was more about kind of integrity, health, things like that, more non-monetary goals that I realized were more important to me. And
that's awesome.
That exercise is that they realize, oh my God, I've actually thought that I was like this, or maybe this is more important to me, but actually this is more important to me. And what I find most people have at the top of their list, it's family, health, those two things, or balance. Those are like the top 3, which it should be. Like, I was actually thinking of writing a blog post the other day, which I'm constantly writing notes about content I'm writing, as we should be as agents anyway. But I was thinking, mind, body, and spirit. It should be mind, body, then success. Like in that order, or like mind and body together and then success. Like, or it should be, how you are able to be a mother and be a mother to your kids and still be present, and then your success. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, I see so many top producers I've actually had someone say to me, my daughter said to me the other day, Mom, I miss you. And she started to cry. And I'm like, that's an awful thing. Well, would you really want to have a business where you don't actually see your kids? Is that your goal? Then great, then go for it. But if that makes you like your heart fall out of your chest, then you need to reevaluate what your goals are,
Yep.
So it's a lot of those exercises people don't do for themselves. And when I did them, I found everything changed for me. And then it was really like the top 5 values I actually printed and put on my desk, on my bulletin board behind my computer, and I would look at them all the time. And it actually reinforced what my strengths were and who I was, and actually how I would uphold that in every decision I would make. And it solidified my boundaries. Really, I think a lot of us as agents, we don't have boundaries at all. So it's learning how to make those stronger. And, you know, sorry, I can't show a house tonight, but I can show it tomorrow morning, you know, that kind of thing. It's just realizing what's important to us. Now I have to be for my kids' recital. So I, you know, just say you're not available, but I am available this time.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it sounds to me like you make an amazing coach, and that anybody that gets lucky enough to have you as their coach is going to be on their way to a better life and a better business. So
Thank you.
I'd love for you to share how folks can get in touch with you if they'd like to pick your brain or just bounce ideas or anything at all.
Yeah, no, I would love that. My website is going to be launched in December. So it's going to be artofmodernrealestate.com, but that's not live quite yet. At this point, I have my business Facebook page, which is Tiffany Sly Real Estate Coaching. And I also have Instagram, which is Art of Modern Real Estate. I'm hugely active on Instagram. I think that that's a great platform to just get out a lot of content that I write and a couple of videos that I've put out. So we can just connect via social media. And then I'll have more news as the next month or so comes on.
I love it. Well, I highly recommend you guys follow Tiffany at Art of Modern Real Estate on Instagram if you're on there, because I just find that her content really speaks to me, inspires me, motivates me, excites me, all that good stuff. She's so down to earth, real, authentic, passionate, and pretty much everything I admire. So I'm so glad that we had the chance to have you on the show today, Tiffany. Thank you so, so much for taking the time.
Of course. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. Let's do it again.
All right. I love and appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And here's to your continued happiness, joy, and success. Have a great day.